Hello, so I make myself comfortable here. Welcome. So welcome to anyone out there, and I'm just settling in and waiting for signs of life on the planet beyond this room. And here we are, Sovereign Earth, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Welcome in. I think someone's showing. Liz Harris. Hello, Liz. Margareta Berg is watching. Melanie Mamakos. So we've got Scotland and Margareta. I always forget where you're from. Is it Tuscany? And from California, Margareta. John King from Ardnamurchan with Lynn. Geno in love from Tuscany. So Margareta's from France, I think. Christophe White from Leicester, I think. Yvette Linknecht from Belgium. From France, Margareta. Great, I got it in the end. Beautiful. Few more messages. Yvette Fable is watching from Holland. Lovely. Lynn and John there. Bless you all. Lovely. Mark Taft from Leicester. Andrea from North Wales. And Angelica Mercer from Germany. Lovely. Sabien is watching. And Tina Weiss from Germany. Lovely. Already an international flavour. So tonight, I'll crack on. Thank you. It's lovely. It's like family. And a lot of you are constants. I don't know how you remember to tune in every week. This week, it's Sovereign Earth 46, and it's wisdom. So there's a topic to conjure with, as we'll see. Wisdom. So we'll start off a couple of thoughts. Thomas Jefferson said the first chapter, honesty is the first chapter of wisdom. Honesty. But Socrates said wonder is the beginning of wisdom. But we'll see there's a whole range of ways of looking at wisdom. And I want to start with looking at a definition that I actually like, although it's quite meaty. There's a bit to it, but it's quite wise in its depth. So I'm going to read it out. So wisdom, it's related to this word sapience or sagacity, where our word for sage comes from. And that sapience is a kind of a knowing. And it's the ability, wait for all of this, ability to think and act. That's key. To think and act is wisdom. Using knowledge, experience, understanding, common sense, and insight. And wisdom is associated with such attributes as unbiased judgment, compassion, experiential self-knowledge, self-transcendence, and non-attachment, wait for it, along with virtues such as ethics and benevolence. So there's masses to unpack there. Knowledge, experience, understanding, common sense, insight, attributes such as unbiased judgment, compassion, experiential self-knowledge, self-transcendence, non-attachment, and it's linked crucially with ethics and benevolence. So there's a lot to get our teeth into there. So we'll have a song just to let all that sink in. And it's a simple song, but it's a wise one because it's of the elements. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. I'm just going to check that I've got the sound sufficiently turned up on here. So if anyone's been struggling for sound, I apologise. Hopefully that should sort it. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirits. Oh. And part of me would love to go on singing like we do on Earth Service on Friday nights. Many of you know that. That's more singing. This is a bit more exploratory of qualities and concepts. So let's just... what's going on there? Yeah, I can see there's loads of you messaging. I'll read all these later. I haven't got the capacity to make it out from this distance without burning myself by leaning over this candle. So this word sapience, sagacity, wisdom. So it's related to the word Sophia, which is wisdom. And it's often defined as transcendent wisdom, ultimate reality, ultimate truth of things. And it's this sapiential is a good word, sapiential view and understanding and capacity that is repeatedly referred to by all the world's religions and all the sacred paths as being a key element. It goes to the heart of all sacred paths. And I think wisdom, it combines this mental capacity of the head and knowledge with this heartful, wise, intuitive knowing, which is beyond words, as we know. Interestingly, the word sagacity comes from is linked. The root is sapere, which interesting is to taste, to discern, or perceive. I think that's a really interesting clue as to wisdom, to taste. We can taste wisdom, can't we? We know it when we taste it. But I love these two quotes from two of my all-time heroes. If anyone's ever been to my house, they know in my bathroom, if they go to the toilet, they're presented with either a picture of Jimi Hendrix, if you're standing, or Bob Marley if you're sitting. Now, Jimi Hendrix, he said, knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. And Bob Marley, don't gain the world and lose your soul. Wisdom is better than silver or gold. Wise words from the songsmiths. I have fond memories of seeing Jimi Hendrix live at his last concert, not long before he died. An amazing presence, amazing music. But he said, knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. That's very insightful. Now, there's a paradox of wisdom, isn't there? And that's really interesting because I don't know from one week to the next what subject I'll choose. I didn't know last week I'd choose wisdom, but after 2 or 3 days from the last subject, I decided to do wisdom. You'd think it might be easy. Wisdom's quite an elusive, difficult subject. I found it quite sort of demanding of me to really try and filter and elucidate what really matters in relation to wisdom. This is my learning as much as yours. So this elusive wisdom, but here's the paradox. We're familiar with the term out of the mouths of babes, comes wisdom. They're inexperienced. Although they're inexperienced, they're capable of saying wise, insightful and mature things. We all know that, don't we? We've all come across a youngster or even baby and we thought, gosh, there's wisdom present. What's that about? And I want to share this saying. This came from Hermann Hesse. It comes from his lovely book, Siddhartha. All about the young Buddha, really. Hermann Hesse, he said, wisdom cannot be imparted. Wisdom cannot be imparted. He says, wisdom that a wise man tries to impart always sounds like foolishness to someone else. Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. One can find it, live it, do wonders through it, but one cannot communicate and teach it. he's got a point, and I agree with him, but I also think it's possible to give clues as to how and where to find wisdom. So I think he's right in that it can't be taught necessarily directly, but it can be encouraged and fostered and cultivated, which is what we're trying to do here. So Shakespeare said, "The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool." And there's a clue. This paradox of wisdom. Childishness and foolishness are at its heart. So here's one. We'll start exploring a few ways to explore into wisdom. So there's a lovely set of tales that I'm sure many of you know. Sufi tales about someone called Mullah Nasruddin, who I've been familiar with for a good part of my life, right back. So one of my favourites from Mullah Nasruddin, he's this old mullah, this sage, this fool, wise fool. And all these tales he tells are clues to wisdom through foolishness. So here's a beautiful one. One day, Mullah Nasruddin is outside his house and he's looking in the bushes for something. He's searching and searching and searching. And his friends come by. A couple of his friends come by his house and they say, "Mullah Nasruddin, what on earth are you looking for?" And he says, "I've lost my keys. I've lost my keys." And they say, we'll help you look for your keys." So they delve around in the bushes and they look under a couple of stones and a little bit further afield, and then, "We can't find these keys, Mullah. You sure you lost them? Where did you lose them?" "Oh, I lost them inside the house, but it's much lighter out here." So yeah, isn't that life? He lost his keys in the house, but there's much more light outside. So that's one story. And there's a whole host of stories in that series. I'd recommend them. But of course, some of the best teaching vehicles for wisdom, and it's another paradox, the simple tales, fairy tales. Now, fairy tales engross and capture and really inspire us all as children, and we see it in our own children, because they've got this amazing capacity to delve into the heart of things that really matter. So having said that wisdom can't be taught, we're doing it with our children, telling them stories, other stories of our lives, but fairy tales as bearers of wisdom. I'm going to look at it in a little bit more detail, but here's something that comes from the old Indian sutras. So this is ancient wisdom, and this sutra is the way of simplicity, and it says, it's written, "For the truth is such that a child may read it, yet the sage, if she have not simplicity and love, may struggle with it for all of her life and have nothing. For in the eyes of eternity, how little is the space between an infant and the wisest in the world." For in the eyes of eternity, how little is the space between an infant and the wisest in the world. Interesting, isn't it? Really beneficial to ponder that. The youngest child and the oldest sage. There's not much more than cigarette paper between them, really. And probably the child's wiser. So in these fairy tales we have once upon a time. That's how they start. So they take us immediately outside of time and space into another world. They're not meant to be taken literally. They're archetypal, universal characters of the psyche rather than of reality. So when we get this, you can get people taking it literally and saying, "I'm not reading my daughter about being a princess because I don't want her to be brought up subservient to the male," and all this. But if one looks more deeply into the psychology and the deeper wisdom of fairy tales, I mean, in the Eastern traditions and in the old, the eternal traditions, you might call it, the wisdom traditions, the passive, which is the princess in the stories, is actually, where is it? The princess is the passive and the prince is the active. But in Eastern terminology, the yin and the yang, this is the point, that the passive state is the highest. So the princess is to be served by the active principle, by the prince. And now there's much more to fairy tales to go into, and that might trigger a few people. You might think, well, I'm not sure I agree with that. But actually, what is it about fairy tales that evokes and just this capacity to really fascinate children? It is this deeper meaning, this wisdom. Earth moves, but heaven is still. So the princess is passive, but the prince must serve. Earth moves, but the heavens are still. So we'll have a brief song just to let that sink in. Let the heavens be reflected on the earth now, that the earth may turn into heaven. Let the heavens be reflected on the earth now, that the earth may turn into heaven. Let the heavens be reflected on the earth now, that the earth may turn into heaven. Let the heavens be reflected on the earth now, that the earth may turn into heaven. That the earth may turn into heaven. That the earth may turn into heaven. There's also wisdom in silence, as we all know. I'm learning slowly. So a few more hints of wisdom. So let's go back to the earliest record, 2600 to 2400 BC in the Babylonian tradition. There's Enki. I remember acting this out years ago over at Tir Koch, the whole tale of Gilgamesh. But within that, there's this Enki, who was also known as Ewas, the god of wisdom and intelligence. God of wisdom and intelligence. But what they managed to glean from the records is divine wisdom allowed the provident designation of functions and the ordering of the cosmos. So it's this wisdom, as we know, is crucial for the ordering of society, for a healthy society. And so they achieved it. What they had this, humans were required to follow this me'es, I don't know if you're pronouncing it right, someone will pick me up on that, me'es, which is in Sumerian, it equates with order, right, as in rites and rituals, and righteousness. So righteousness is a function. Wisdom, the function of wisdom is linked to righteousness, and particularly they said it was linked to the restoring of balance. The restoring of balance, which I think is wise. But of course we've got our own indigenous tales of wisdom. I could tell you about Taliesin, many of you will know it, but that's a year's study in Obod, in the Order of Bards over at St Jude's. That's a year's worth. But the similar tale, Finn McCool, the Irish equivalent, very similar. but it's all about wisdom. Both of those tales are inherently about wisdom. So what happens in the tale of Finn? So there's an ordinary salmon swimming, and it comes to the pool of Shagash, the well of wisdom, with the 9 hazelnuts growing around it, and it consumes these hazelnuts. And we haven't time to go into all the symbology in detail, but it consumes these hazelnuts representing wisdom. So the salmon, it absorbs the wisdom of the world. And Finnegas, or what was his other name? Finnegas. I think, I've got a sense that I may be wrong. I think it's Druid, but it doesn't really matter. He knows of this salmon of wisdom. So Finnegas tries fishing for the salmon for 7 years without luck, until eventually he does catch it. Of course, he's over the moon, and he wants to gain the wisdom of the salmon, so he gets his servant boy, Finn, to light a fire and to cook this salmon. And it takes a long time, and he clearly instructs Finn not to consume anything of the salmon, not to eat it. But in cooking it, of course, Finn had to turn it over, and then he touched it to see if it was done, and some fat came on his thumb, and he immediately, then that was the natural reaction, if you straighten his mouth with his thumb. And of course, all the wisdom was imparted to the boy. Well, there's a number of interesting things there. I mean, sucking your thumb's quite infantile, isn't it? It's this relationship to innocence and wisdom of a child, and the boy gets the wisdom. And but he's also had to work for it. He's done the cooking, so he gets the benefit. But whatever, there's these great tales in our tradition of wisdom. So, and John O'Donoghue, there's this lovely passage from John O'Donoghue, also of that Celtic wisdom, of that Druidic, native to these lands wisdom. And what did he say? It epitomises the result of all that. Once the soul awakens, he says, once the soul awakens, the search begins, and you can never go back. From then on, you are inflamed with a special longing that will never again let you linger in the lowlands of complacency and partial fulfillment. The eternal makes you urgent. You are loath to let compromise or the threat of danger hold you back from striving towards the summit of fulfillment. And to varying degrees, I think that's why we're all here, all of us. That will resonate, I suspect, but it's a wise saying. So we've got all these old tales that spark our inner wisdom and call us. They call us to being, don't they? Call us to be fully human. Now, one of the things that fascinates me about the word wisdom, and these are my own thoughts here, but well, then not all of them. Sanskrit, the word wid is wisdom in Sanskrit, the old language of Sanskrit, wid. And of course, it's in Druid. It's in the word Druid. It's the wisdom bit of Druid. But that wisdom word, it also, playing with it, as I tend to do with words, I think it's the derivation of our word for wide. So wisdom, a wide perspective. Wisdom calls for that. Wisdom also calls for a wild, the allowance of the wild. I'm stretching it a bit there, but where I think there may be some truth in this. In our ancient British, I'll call it, the ancient pre-Roman word, widdershins. So in ceremony we go Deosil sunwise, and anti-clockwise is widdershins. It may be the reverse on your screen, but I was going anti-clockwise here. Widdershins. But what is the wisdom in widdershins? It's going against the sun. It's allowing for the other It's the balance. I just like that potential, that concept. And I throw that in the mix just as a thought. So we'll have another wee song. I just like the wildness and the wideness of this song. I'm just going to sing it. I went down to the water's edge, there I found my coat of sealskin. I went up to the mountain high, there I found my cloak of feathers. I will swim and I will fly, tell the tales the birds have taught me. I will swim and I will fly, sing the song the sea has brought me. I went down to the water's edge, there I found my coat of sealskin. I went up to the mountain high, there I found my cloak of feathers. I will swim, I will fly, tell the tales the birds have taught me. I will swim and I will fly, sing the songs the sea has brought me. There's a lot of words to that, but the wisdom, beauty, into the realms of that transcendent wisdom, into the shamanism and the tools to explore our wider consciousness, which I haven't got the time to go into in detail, but many of you are familiar with, I know. But that song, it points to a deeper wisdom in nature, in the wild, and in the cosmos. But we've got enough to look at in wisdom. I won't go into the detail of that. Now, just for a minute, can I invite us to close our eyes? And let's just simply and briefly take ourselves, in whatever way, I invite each of us to take ourselves to a sacred grove in the forest, in the woods, with a circle of trees and a circle of us within it. Just take ourselves straight there, simply in our mind's eye, to a grove, a sacred grove in the forest. And I take us there because in nature and in the wilderness and the wild, it's easier to access wisdom, I believe. So just taking yourself, taking myself into my body, breathing into my body. And with my awareness in my body, what is the wisdom of your body? What symbol might you come up with? It doesn't matter if this doesn't work, but it may well work. What symbol comes up for you for body wisdom? Now just taking yourself, taking myself into my head, into our heads, taking our awareness into our heads and a breath into the head. What symbol comes up for you for head wisdom, if any? There's no right or wrong. But if you were to have a symbol for head wisdom, what might it be? And a breath now taking us to our hearts. Take a breath into the heart. If you were to have a symbol for heart wisdom, for your heart wisdom, what might it be? A few seconds to just see if something comes up. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't. And finally, in your own way, a breath into your soul, however that might work. I invite us to take a breath with our souls. And from this place, what symbol comes up for your soul wisdom? So just breathing back into the body and just gently bringing your awareness now back into the grove where you're standing or sitting, and gently leaving that space and in your own way bringing yourself back to this space, but leave your eyes closed for a moment. Inviting you to open your eyes. You may already have. So, yeah, wisdom said I needed to close the window because next door's dog's barking and it could be a distraction. I had the window open for the birds, but they're much quieter at this time. Beltane's when they're at their fullest, and then they gradually quieten down towards summer solstice. So I don't know if anything came up for you. I did that earlier to trial it, and what did I have? What came up? A key came up for my head, a stone, a solid stone for my body, a flaming arrow for my heart, and a lighted heart for my soul, funnily enough. Anyway, that's what came up for me. I'd be interested to know what came up for you if you're prepared to share. Thank you. Just a little interesting exercise to connect with different aspects of wisdom. There are so many aspects to wisdom. This is a lovely bit here from Rumi. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. We all know that one. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. So said Rumi. Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And of course, what's the inscription above Delphi, the temple to the oracle? It's know thyself. But wisdom is first know thyself, then to that self be true. So I tend to find the first half of, the first 2/3 of my life was, and still is, about knowing myself. But then the key is from knowing oneself to then have the courage to be true to that. That's wisdom. And one of the things that's truly guided me these last 20, 30 years has been the saying, love says I'm everything, wisdom says I'm nothing. Between those two, my life flows freely. And it's true, love says I'm everything. And I knew that, I've said this before, I'm sure, but I knew that from birth. That was a given for me. It's not a given for most people or for everyone, certainly, but love says I'm everything. I got that. What was much more difficult for me to learn, which was the latter part of my life, was wisdom says I'm nothing. And then those two together, they give this beautiful fusion of contentment. That's the answer. Love says I'm everything, wisdom says I'm nothing. Socrates, and I'm going to, you might think I'm labouring this point, but I'm going to read you a few sayings from very learned and wise folk. Socrates, the only true wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing. Socrates. Tolstoy, we can only know that we know nothing. And that is the highest degree of human wisdom, said Tolstoy. And in that is a lot of humility. Check back Sovereign Earth number 2, I think it was. Another one, Confucius. These are people worth listening to. Confucius. He who knows all the answers has not been asked all the questions. Lovely, isn't it? He who knows all the answers has not been asked all the questions. I wrote down here, wisdom craves humility. That's just a jotting in the margin. Wisdom craves humility, and I think that's true. Wisdom actually craves humility. Confucius went on to say, but it's something else he said. It's like a triad, this one. It reminds me of Druid triads. Bit of a tongue twister, Druid triads. My tongue is in a twist this evening. By 3 methods may we learn wisdom. By 3 methods may we learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is the noblest. Second, by imitation, which is the easiest. Third, by experience, which is the bitterest. So said Confucius. It's true, isn't it? We learn. I certainly can equate with my greater learning has come from some of the bitterest at one level, but the sweetest at the same time, learnings of experience. Okay, a little one from Oprah Winfrey to back that up. Turn your wounds into wisdom. Turn your wounds into wisdom. That's certainly been my experience of life. Or Rumi, suffering is a gift. In it is hidden mercy. Suffering is a gift. In it is hidden mercy. And then, just to finish these gleanings of pointers to wisdom, Tao Te Ching, ancient Chinese wisdom, Lao Tzu. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. All these ancient threads, none of these people knew of each other when they wrote these things. How amazing. So I just want to give a few examples of what I'd call wisdom statements. Something that, for me, these resonate with wisdom. So Oscar Wilde. We live in an age where unnecessary things are our only necessities. And another one, I think, by him. Yeah. Nowadays, most people die of a sort of creeping common sense and discover when it's too late that the only things one never regrets in life are one's mistakes. I think that's great, a very wise statement. I can certainly equate with that. This beautiful and poignant one from Khalil Gibran. Trees are poems the earth writes upon the sky. We fell them down and turn them into paper that we may record our emptiness. And here's a final one. This sums it all up for me. John O'Donoghue again, but wisdom and what its purpose is. If you send out goodness from yourself, or if you share that which is good or happy within you, it will all come back to you multiplied 10,000 times. In the kingdom of love, there's no competition. There's no possessiveness or control. the more love you give away, the more love you will have. And that kind of brings wisdom to its kind of natural fullness and conclusion in a way. I'm going to have one more song and then I'll just finish off. And this song is all about what John O'Donoghue just expressed so eloquently there. So again, it's a Baha'i song actually, from the Baha'i faith. It talks of, "Oh Lord, make me a hollow reed." It's beyond gender. Oh Lord, oh lady. Oh Lord, make me a hollow reed. Oh, just I need to tell you, there's words in there you'll wonder what I'm talking about. There's a sentence. It's all about a reed being hollowed out, and it talks about from which the pith of self hath been blown. From which the pith of self hath been blown. So the pith is in a reed. It's that soft inner. You can remove it. It's also pith in an orange, soft beneath the outer layer. That's what I'm singing about here. Oh Lord, make me a hollow reed. 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 From which the pith of self hath been blown. From which the pith of self hath been blown. So that I may become a clear channel, so that I may become a clear channel through which your love, your love, your love may flow to others. Your love, your love, your love may flow to others. Your love, your love, your love may flow to others. Your love, your love, your love may flow to others. So we're nearly done. There's three statements which I hope will bring a smile to your face as they brought a smile to mine. They're about wisdom, but they're slightly different take on it. First one from Rumi again. Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment. Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment. Yes. It's back to the start, isn't it? Wonder is the first step on the way to wisdom. This one's from someone called Elizabeth Gaskell, but I think it rings true, certainly for me. Sometimes one likes foolish people for their folly better than wise people for their wisdom. There's wisdom in that statement. And finally, this is Irish wisdom. It's classic Irish wisdom, and I love Ireland. May you never forget what is worth remembering, nor ever remember what is best forgotten. So hopefully you'll remember one or two little snippets from this offering. I hope you found something in it to stimulate your taste buds, going back to Sapere, your taste buds for wisdom. It's certainly helped me stimulate mine. So that's Sovereign Earth 46 Wisdom. There'll be another one next Tuesday. I don't know what topic yet. There will be Sovereign Earth service on Friday where we chant in the Global Grove. This too is the Global Grove. I've really enjoyed sharing this time with you. I realise this one was a bit meaty and has possibly gone on a bit long. I'll try and not try and make the next few a little bit shorter. And if anyone, to keep me keep me going and to fund this work. If anyone's inclined to make a donation, I'd be grateful, either on the Enchanting the Void web page, last page, bottom left, donate, or through PayPal, jjmiddleway@hotmail.com. But whatever, lots of love, lots of blessings, and I'll look forward, after I've had a drink, to reading all your comments. Bye now.